Kia ora 10. This video is the follow-on to the revision video for Ollie where I go through very slowly how to factorise and expand quadratics, and this one it's your turn to do some practice. So first of all, I want you to try factorising those 6 equations. So pause the screen and do these into your book. You need to think about the sign pattern for each one. Okay, and after that we're going to do a page of solving, right? But first I'm going to go through the factorising ones. Right, so this is how they go. So if we've got the first one, x squared plus 3x plus 2. Well, I note that the sign pattern that I want has got a plus here and a plus here. So it's going to be x something times x something. And then I need to have two numbers that times to give me 2, multiplied to give me 2, and add up to give me this middle number, which is 3. So in this case, we know that it's going to be two positives, right? So it's going to be 2 times 1. So we're going to have x plus 2 times x plus 1. We can check that by expanding it out. We're going to have x times all of this, which gives me x squared plus x. And then we're going to have plus 2 times all of this, which gives me plus 2x plus 2. So you should always at least mentally do that, if not in written out form. When you get to harder problems in year 12, that's still a really good thing to do. Once you've factorised, just check it by expanding your answer back and see if you get what you started with. So that's the first one done. Okay, on to the next one. So this one has got a different sign pattern. It's got a plus 45 at the end, but it's got minus 14x. So that means that I need two numbers that multiply to give me 45. They're either going to have to both be positive or negative. But we know from looking at this that we need to have two negative numbers. So it's going to be x to give me the x squared. And I need to have take away something and then take away something else. So two numbers that multiply to give me 45. Well, what could they be? Well, I've got 1 and 45, 3 and 15, 5 and 9. So hopefully you see how useful your basic facts are, right? So if I take 1 and 45, they're going to add up to give me 46. These are going to add to give me 18, so they're not going to work. The pair that I want are the 5 and 9. So it's going to be take away 5 and take away 9. And we can check that back, and that's going to work fine. Now the next one has got the same sign pattern. X squared minus 9x plus 8. So we start off by identifying that it's a quadratic. It's going to be x times x. And we want to have two numbers that multiply to give me 8. So they're going to have to be both positive or both negative. But we need them to give me minus 9x. So it'll be minus, minus. So something times something equals 8. Factors of 8. We've got 1 and 8. And we've got 2 and 4. 1 and 8 add up to give me what I want here, which is 9. So we have x minus 1 times x minus 8. And we can expand back to check. Right, so the next 3 are harder ones. And they're harder because I end up with a negative sign at the end. And that means I have to think about the gap between two numbers. Right? And one of the numbers now is going to be positive and one's going to be negative. So x squared minus 2x minus 8. Well, we start off as usual like this. We can see that we want to have a negative 8 here. Two numbers that times to give me this. One must be negative and one must be positive. So again, we think about factors of 8. We've got 1 and 8. We've got 2 and 4. I want to end up with a gap of 2 between those numbers. And when we expand, we need to get negative 2x. So if we put the positive sign by the 4, so I'm looking at 1 and 8 and I'm going, the gap is 7. I'm looking at 2 and 4 and the gap is 2. So from that, we can see that the numbers that we want are some form of 2 and 4, but we have to choose which is negative and which is positive. So if we make it positive 4 and negative 2, that's going to give me plus 2x, which is not what I want. So it needs to be the other way around. What I need to have in here is x take away 4 and plus 2. And we can expand that back to check. So we're going to get x squared plus 2x minus 4x minus 8. The next one will be the other way around. So x squared plus 2x minus 8 is equal to this. X times x, I need to have a positive and a negative number. So it's going to be either something to do with 1 and 8 or something to do with 2 and 4. The gap here is 2 between 2 and 4, and I need to end up with plus 2x. So this time it's going to be x plus the big number, plus 4, times x take away 2. Work it back and check it. X squared, take away 2x, plus 4x minus 8. And this last one is a similar kind of pattern. Right? We've got x squared minus 6x minus 16. Right, so I need to have two numbers that multiply to give me negative 16. It has to be a positive and a negative. I want the gap between the numbers to be 6. So we could have 1 and 16, or we could have 2 and 8, or we could have 4 and 4. So there's no gap in there, but here the 2-8 combo is what I'm going to want. If I put the negative sign next to the 8, we'll end up with minus 8x and positive 2x. So it's going to be x plus 2 and x minus 8. And when we expand that back, we'll see that that works. So that's the first batch done. That's factorizing. Okay, so factorizing simple quadratics where we've got an x squared. Nothing harder than that just yet. Next, we're going to look at how to solve. So in the earlier video that I did for Ollie, we looked at equations where we already had them factorized, and that made it really easy. So what we have to do here is factorize and then solve. So if we start with x squared plus 5x plus 4 equals 0, it's really hard to see what x value will make that a true statement. But if we factorize it, then we get to this. So we have x times x. The pattern here is going to be a plus plus pattern. Two numbers times to give me 4 and add to 5. So we've got 4 and 1. Or better to be systematic, let's start at the low end. 1 and 4 and 2 and 2. So it's this combo, x plus 1 times x plus 4. We've just got one extra step. Either this will be 0 or this will be 0. So we get x equals negative 1 or x equals negative 4. And that's that one finished off. So whenever you have to solve a quadratic, you want to be thinking about having it equal to 0 so that we can use the property that 0 times blah, blah, blah is equal to 0. So first we're going to get it equal to 0, and then we're going to factorize. Question number 2, x squared minus 6x plus 40 equals 0. I'm going to do the factorizing part quickly now. We have an x times an x. The sign pattern has to be two negatives. And we want two numbers that multiply to give me 40 and have a gap of 6. No, we don't. We've got a plus plus pattern. So this question doesn't make sense. I've put a typo in it. I'm sorry, guys. This question can't be done. You're all sitting there grumpily down the computer. This should be a minus 40 question. Okay, this is what happens when you try and do maths in a big hurry. So I need to have a minus plus pattern. Okay, and the factors, there are lots of factor combos here. I've got 1 and 40, 2 and 20, 3 doesn't work, but then I get to 4 and 10, and I can see that the gap there is 6. So that means that if I go x, take away 10, and x plus 4, it factorizes correctly. So we have x equals 10 or x equals negative 4. Either this is 0 or this is 0. Number 3, x squared minus 7x minus 18 is 0. The sign pattern means that I'm going to have a plus and a minus. I need the two numbers multiplying to give me negative 18. So I'm looking for a positive and a negative, and I want a gap of 7. So it's going to be negative 9 times 2. Factors of 18, 1 and 18, 2 and 9. So we can see we've got the right gap here. The gap is 7. And we need to take away 9x plus 2x. So my last step is to say, when is this 0? Well, when x is negative 2. When is this 0? When x is equal to 9. Right, we've got how many left to do? 3 left. All I've done for number 4 is to change one sign. So here we've got minus 7x, and here we've got plus 7x. So that changes the factorization slightly. Again, the pattern that we've got is a plus and a minus pattern. So we can have x plus and x minus. The two numbers are still going to be 2 and 9, but we want this time to put the plus with the 9 and the minus with the 2, right? Because then I get x squared minus 2x plus 9x minus 18. But we haven't finished, we have to solve. So we get x is equal to negative 9 or x is equal to 2. Right, on to question 5. So my sign pattern is going to be 1 positive and 1 negative. The factors of 8 are 1 and 8 or 2 and 4. I need to have a gap of 2. And because it's plus 2x, it will be x plus 4x times x minus 2, right? We get x squared minus 2x plus 4x for that middle term. Solving, the last step, I have to work out how to make each of those factors 0. X is negative 4 or x is 2. And then one last one, this one here, same kind of pattern, 1 positive and 1 negative. Now I'm doing most of those because they're the hardest ones that you're going to see at unistructural level this year. Okay, so we've got, what have we got? Well, we've got x times x plus and a minus. I need two numbers that have got a gap of 6. So factors of 16 again, 1 and 16, 2 and 8. This is what I want. And I need to have minus 6. So it's going to be minus the big number and plus the little number. Solving that gives me x is negative 2 or x is equal to 8. So there you go. That's how we solve after we've learned to factorize. Just remember, if you see a quadratic that's in expanded form, you should never try to solve it like that. Always try and factorize it first. Thanks for watching.